Welcome back to Contemporary Black Voices, where we now do hot topics. But as usual, before we get started, we got to give our credit to our producer, Mr. Kyle Booker. Yeah, Kyle. And this man works hard. He puts out a newspaper. He's doing a big expo. And by the way, uh, if you're in the San Antonio area next Friday, come out to our expo. It's going to be at the Freedom Auditorium, isn't it? Freeman Auditorium from 3 to 8. We will be doing Contemporary Black Voices from the expo next Friday at 3 o'clock. And it looks like we're going to have one heck of a hot topic because these folks been up here for the last half hour off camera talking about sex and twerking. And so we're gonna probably have that as a discussion. So with that said, let me turn it over to Sharon so she can read a comment we received on our website.
Okay, this comment is from Seriously Speaking, 9720, concerning our show last week with David Williams. And he says, since a lot of attention is on school curriculum because of CRT, why not ask that parenting be introduced as a course in schools? Now, seriously, you have a pretty long comment here, so I'm going to kind of filter some down. Surely, mature minds can agree on what the basic components of good parenting are, regardless of the makeup of the family. A large part of society's problems is that generally the basics of social structure and functioning have been lost on far too many people. They seem to not comprehend the basic value in them and the need for them. If we can see racism as being systemic and structured, why can't we see that antisocial behavior is now also systemic and structural? It has become a subculture that rivals Black culture, especially in adherence. Okay, so my comment on this. First of all, thanks for your comment. I'm not sure if you have any classroom experience or what involved, but teachers receive their curriculum based on the state standards, okay? And a lot of the textbooks are arranged according to those state standards. So ideally, there's a lot of courses that even I would like to see in a course room, but because of the time, because of the state's focus on standardized tests, a lot of what we would like to teach or see taught in the classroom, they just don't have time for. There's already been push about having schools 6 days a week, 4 days a week, 5 days a week, 7 days a week. And teachers really, even they expanded the time, they still won't have time. So what a lot of school districts are doing is one of the two models. First of all, they may be doing a curriculum, a continuing education program to where they have a series of courses that you can pay for. But one of the courses may be parenting courses, and it's at a localized, centralized area. But what some other schools may be doing is opening the schools after hours and allowing community people to come in trained on certain topics, i.e. Social workers on parenting and social workers, to where people who need help with parenting information can come in after hours and work on that. So I agree with you. I would like to see a lot of these topics on values and self-respect, which can be kind of taught through social studies, but come back into the classroom. But because of the state's focus on state standardized tests, it won't happen. They're too busy trying to get the kids to pass the test, which to me is a big flaw. So I agree with you on a lot of what you said, but I wanted to clarify that teachers as a whole, schools as a whole, don't have any say-so on courses to add. It has to be within the state standards.
Okay, so now we're going to get to our hot topic, and you are what ABC, NBC, CBS, MSNBC, CNN, and Fox is not giving you about what's happening in Africa, you're about to get from someone who really knows. And we're going to have a discussion on Nigeria, and the United States involvement. So for that, I'm going to turn it over to our expert, not only on this subject, but I can just name one after another, after another, until they wear out.
Our wandering encyclopedia.
To our New York Times best-selling author, Caleb Alexander. So Caleb.
All right. So today we're going to be talking about what's going on in West Africa, particularly Niger. And so we thought it was important to address this because of the basically the news blackout. The news hasn't been covering it. We know there's been wall-to-wall coverage about Trump and his indictments and other legal issues, but we thought that it's important for our viewers to understand what's going on. So I just wanted to set the stage and give you basically the fundamentals about what's going on. And so there was a coup d'état in West African nation of Niger. This coup d'état followed two previous coup d'états, and so there was a coup d'état in Burkina Faso and Mali. And so the military seized power in those nations as well as the nation of Guinea. And so these are former French colonies. So what's happened because of the coup d'etat, there's an organization called ECOWAS, which is the organization of the Economic Community of West African States, which is led by, which Nigeria is probably the most powerful nation in that community. And so two things have happened. One, they deposed, the people of Niger deposed the president, who they view as being an illegitimate president. They say that he doesn't represent the people of Niger. They call him an American puppet and a French puppet. And so one of the reasons that they deposed him is because of the economic situation and the instability in the northern part of their country. They say he's not doing enough. And so again, just to give you a little background, in Niger, if you recall, a couple of years ago, there was an attack on American special forces in which several U.S. soldiers were killed, and that occurred in the nation of Niger. Also, the nation of Niger supplies all of France's uranium for their power plants, and so 80% of France's power comes from nuclear reactors, and they get this the uranium to power them from Niger. And so since the coup d'etat, Niger has banned exports of uranium to France. So France, of course, views this as an existential threat, and they've threatened to invade the nation of Niger. After that threat to invade the nation of Niger, 3 other West African nations who are also ruled by military juntas have declared that if you invade Niger, you declare war on us as well. And so for the first time in history, we see 4 African nations, fairly large African nations, that are standing together and standing up to a colonial power. ECOWAS has threatened, they've given, the actual deadline is tomorrow, for the military junta to step down and return the president into power. The dynamics of this is the United States has a very large CIA presence in Niger, a very large military presence. They spent $100 million building a drone base in Niger. And so, again, just to cover some backdrop, the United States has not declared what's happened in Niger a coup d'etat, because once they declared a coup d'etat, certain sanctions have to kick in. So they are very careful in how they're handling the situation and how they're wording the situation. And so with the ECOWAS threatening military action, again, the other 2 nations, or the other 3 nations that are ruled by military juntas, has also told ECOWAS that if you do any kind of military action against Niger, that you declare war on us as well. So right now there's a specter of African powers fighting African powers. And the thing about this is you have the first time in history where you may have a large bloc, a large regional conflict of Africans versus Africans. And so one group of Africans is basically fighting, saying that they are fighting for the people, fighting for the economic rights of the people, where you have the other group that has a divergent interest as well, which is viewed as being being willing to go to war on behalf of the United States and France. And so the reason we thought this conversation is important, and so the other day when we were talking about this, I know Dr. Shotwell said, well, this is going to be a grown conversation. And so we're going to bring you a grown-up conversation. As part of this grown-up conversation is the specter of American intervention, even though the United States probably has divergent interests from France when it comes to this issue. There is a specter that there may be French or American intervention. And so the question that we wanted to raise as far as the African American community here is we know the composition of our military forces. We know the composition of our army. And so this raises the specter of African American soldiers killing Africans on behalf of the United States. And so that's the grown-up discussion that we're going to have. Not just Africans killing Africans on behalf of France, but African Americans killing Africans on behalf of the United States. And so that's the question.
Isn't that what happened? African killed an African American soldier 2 years ago. Was it?
They caught the United States soldiers on patrol. And they engaged those soldiers, and one of the soldiers was an African American who was killed. But again, there were other soldiers from the United States that were unfortunately killed in the ambush as well.
So this is for the Nigeria and the other members of the organization.
Mm-hmm.
They're threatening to go in if they try to remove the person who just took over power. They try to return the old guy.
Right.
They're going to go in.
Right.
And that's wait a minute.
The deadline is tomorrow.
That they have to return him, or they have to return him.
Right. He's under house arrest, and so they have until tomorrow to step down and return him to power.
So ECOWAS is just a front for the United States and France.
And so, and the United States and France is backing ECOWAS and ECOWAS's demand for this deposed leader to return to power. And so you could say that. You could say that they are the front men for this military intervention. And so it appears again where you have a case of white folks putting a black face on their activities.
Like white folks putting Clarence Thomas in the Supreme Court. Is that comparable?
Uncle Ruck, yes.
Uncle Ruck.
Yes.
You know, what's exciting about or interesting about all of this is that I listened to the Democracy Now, and the representative for the Burkina Faso, he was saying, this man was probably in his late 30s, early 40s. He was saying it is a powerful statement. As rich in resources that Africa is, why are we starving? Why are our people starving? And during some of our conversations, I had to reflect back also on the Berlin Conference, on how the Catholic Church authorized the breakup of the different countries in Africa to several of the European countries. And so Africa is heavily socialized, not socialized, colonized, if you will. And we got some new countries trying to colonize Africa, i.e. China, U.S., where they weren't part of the Berlin Conference, so the U.S. So we've got some new countries trying to get a piece of that cake. And these younger Africans are saying, you know what, this is ridiculous. We're over here starving. All of our resources are going out to these different countries. And so the other thing we have to keep in fact is in the Congo, cobalt is a major resource there. And think about how cobalt affects all of us on this panel and everybody who's watching the show and everybody beyond. Cobalt is what's charging our batteries. Cell phones. Think about those Teslas some of you guys have. Cobalt is what runs everything that we own. And so if the Congo decides to withhold, that's going to impact a lot of us.
Okay. Chris, you're over there. Wait to get in this conversation.
I want to get a clarification from Caleb. Number one, is Nigeria a part of what you call it, ECOWAS?
ECOWAS,
ECOWAS, okay. So, but at the same time, they could be put up to be the opposition to Niger. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So how does that work? I mean, how can they be a part when they say that if somebody's attacking them, they all are going to be attacked, which would include Nigeria, but Nigeria could possibly be propped up by the United States and France maybe to go against Niger.
Right. So you have because of the division so because of colonization, you have all these countries are members of ECOWAS. They're all members of the same community.
That's what I just asked.
And so within ECOWAS, you have what we call former French colonial powers and former English or British colonial powers, of which Nigeria, Ghana, they're former British colonies, whereas the majority of West Africa are former French colonies. So you have, which of course includes Niger, of course includes Burkina Faso. These are all French-speaking. Mali, Chad, Ivory Coast, Senegal. So these are the former French colonies. And so there's a different route that the British took to colonization than what the French took. And so the French have maintained economic oppression on their former colonies in a way that the British have not. And so all of the dictatorships that are coming to power, they've all been former French colonies. And so one of the things they do is the first thing they do is they kick out French forces and they kick out French companies because of this repression. And so the same thing that's happened in Niger, they've banned export of uranium and any kind of material to France, and they're also telling the French to leave. And the French are saying that they're not going. And so, no. And so this is, is setting the stage for a larger conflict. And so, but it's also setting the stage for what could potentially be a domino effect. And so, the first time you have a French soldier killing a West African, I predict that it's going to be a game changer. These young leaders that have come to power post-independence, they don't have the same mentality that their fathers had about France. These people are very sophisticated. They are very worldly. A lot of these young military folks, they've been trained at West Point. They've been trained at the British Academy at Sandhurst. They've received training at Russian military academies, Chinese military academies. They're very sophisticated. They're very worldly. And they look around, they understand their situation. They look at the global economy, which is still, no matter what they tell you, it's still based on gold.
Let me ask a question. So is I brought up the question about Nigeria and being against Niger. Is that almost the same situation with a different country if the United States were to get involved militarily and our black soldiers, what are they going to do against the black nation?
That's the question. That's the grown-up question that we're having, the grown-up conversation that we're having right now. And so, what does an African American soldier? Are they going to fire upon and kill an African soldier?
What's your thought?
And so, you have a legal commitment. You're a soldier. You're an American soldier. But at the same time, it's a moral question. And so, are you going to go and kill an African for a country
Trying to get your independence?
And so are you going to kill for a country? And knowing the history of America, knowing the history of how you got to America, knowing the history of racism and rape and oppression and Jim Crow. And even knowing the recent history of America, a country that's telling you that your history is worth nothing and it's not even worth teaching. The recent history of this country where you're still liable to be killed if you're pulled over by a police officer at night. And so, are you going to fight for this country?
Well, let's turn it around. Are they going to shoot and kill blacks?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the, I know it's different. That's what happened in Vietnam. The Viet Cong weren't going to shoot black soldiers until
Until the black soldiers start shooting them.
get them.
Exactly.
If the Africans start shooting at our black soldiers,
Right.
what do you expect for them to do?
Well, I mean, this is the deal, though. If the black soldiers go over there with the white soldiers, and so if I see you rolling with my enemy, then you're my enemy. And so that's just, I mean, if you're coming over here, you've come thousands of miles across the ocean to my country, and I see you with your buddies, and I see you with an American patch and American flag on your uniform. I'm not gonna stop and say, well, hey, look, are you gonna, while your white buddies are shooting at me, I'm not gonna stop and say, are you shooting at me too? You know what I mean? And so
The answer is inevitable that it's going
to happen. And so again, it's a moral question. You know what I mean?
a moral question to who?
It's a moral question for African American soldiers.
How about the Africans? Is it a moral question for them?
The Africans aren't traveling thousands of miles across an ocean to kill a black soldier.
But they're going to kill black soldiers.
If the black soldier comes thousands of miles across an ocean to kill into their country.
So really, when it comes to war, there's not a moral question at all.
I mean,
you do away with morality. You talk
no.
about survival. If I'm a black soldier over there, and I know that black guy is going to shoot me, I'm going to try to shoot him first.
Right. So again, it's a moral obligation versus a legal obligation.
Well, I don't see why you're putting a moral obligation on the black soldier, because I don't think with war there's a moral question at all. War is just war.
It is a moral question if you choose to go over there.
You don't have a choice.
And you have a choice in everything that you do.
You got a lot of soldiers right now, Sam Houston, who have seen things, who have been put in a position to do things that has affected them from here on out. And so I can only envision that these young black men, there's going to be young black men that will go over there, and I believe it's going to affect many of them because they understand, as Caleb was saying, the histories of our battles, and so they're going to be put in a position. They're probably the first ones out there shoot, and they're going to shoot because of the obligation they made when they pledged to become a member of the military.
Frank, I disagree with you talking about it being a moral issue.
I said it's not a moral issue.
That's what I said. I disagree with you.
War is not about morals.
Well, what about when okay, let's say maybe it may not be within the military itself, but back home, how do we morally look at Vietnam? We're still trying to deal with that, and those people who came back.
No, but the soldier over there wasn't dealing with a moral issue. He was worried about one of them Viet Cong going to pop up from underground and shoot him. That's what he was concerned about. Morality had no place in it at all. It was survival.
It did back home.
War. Back home, they weren't out there fighting. They weren't.
Hey, but when them kids got killed, hold on. Yeah, but when them kids got killed in Ohio, the war stopped. Yeah, Kent State. Yeah, the war stopped. So when you said they're not out there fighting, when them kids were marching in the schools here in the United States, and that's why we don't have those congressmen and their kids a lot serving in the military today.
Okay, that's a different issue, Chris. When you're on the battlefield,
I understand about that.
There's no morality.
Okay.
There's survival.
Okay.
You go try to shoot that sucker before he shoots you.
I agree.
And that'll be the same thing if black. Now, the question is, would they go over there? But I'm afraid that they will go over there because they got their families that are depending on what they get. If they're living in, they're getting you know, whatever they get for their families. They got kids, and they have to feed their families. If they don't go, their families will be cut off, and they'll go to jail.
Right.
So, what's their choice?
Well, again, and that goes to, that's a deeper question. It goes to who we are as a people, where our allegiances lie. And so does your allegiance lie with a country that has never given a damn about you? Does your allegiance lie with a country who still continues to persecute you?
You know, you guys, you take your discussions to an exaggerated point to make it. You say this country never gave a damn about us, and there has been some progress made. Granted, it's only in certain periods of time, but it has happened.
What's
It
the
has
progress?
happened.
What's the progress, Rebecca?
How about the Civil Rights Bill? How about Voting Rights Act? How about all those things?
How about all those things that are being challenged now?
No, it doesn't matter.
They're taking all that away.
But no. They're challenging. That means it happened. That means it happened because of being challenged. Now, we don't know how the challenge is going to turn out, but it happened. And civil rights happened. Voting rights happened. So when you all take it to this exaggeration, you know, you have to be objective in your thinking. There have been times when this country has opened up doors for us, and we've accomplished. 50 years ago, in San Antonio, Texas, we couldn't be sitting around here having this discussion. Kyle couldn't be doing what he's doing. 50 years later, Kyle is doing what he's doing. We're reaching out to our people, and we're having a discussion. We're jumping on white folks, jumping on this, and we're able to do it. And the mayor's not coming down here and close it down.
And we talk about twerk.
You know, you talk about twerk too. Yeah. So, you know, there has been progress. So when you say, but my point to you is, if you're a soldier and you have a family and you're depending on your paycheck to take care of your kids, take care of your wife, and everything else, and that man tells you to go over to Niger, that's a tough decision. You're gonna sacrifice your family now?
First,
It's going to be part of that marketing plan.
what have you done with Professor Williams, and who are you? So, because I know that you are not sitting here telling me that economics comes before your allegiance to your people.
No,
And
I'm
so-
not saying. No, I'm not talking about me. Okay, I'm not talking
I'm
about
asking
me.
what you done with my friend. So,
What?
because economics does not come before your allegiance to your people.
When I was 21, it did. When I was 21, when I got into, I don't want to go that much in my background, but when I was in Army intelligence in Korea, I never wore a uniform. They put me back in uniform to go infiltrate the starting of the Nation of Islam in Korea. But I was only 21, 22. And a lot of the guys right now are just 21, 22.
Right.
And they're thinking about, and they're much different than me, because we go back to our old discussion about these young guys, they don't even recognize that there was a problem in America because of what has civil rights has happened.
This is what I think is going to happen. The United States is going to glamorize going to Africa for a lot of our black men and women. A lot of them are going to come from poor communities. This is how they see a way out of those situations. And then they're going to sign on the dotted line that, you know, I so-and-so will do this for the United States. Then they're going to go into a community in an area that's totally foreign to them. Totally foreign to them. Now, they are probably going to shoot or be shot, but I can't help but think that in the long run, when they come back over here and that mental damage has been done, they're going to be right at Fort Sam Houston or SAMC.
Do you want to know what I think? I think the United States has figured out a way with the war in Ukraine and different things like that, having spent 20 years in Afghanistan, money-wise and everything else, we can't afford to be in those wars. So what I think they're going to do is kind of like what Caleb said. They will pump up somebody like Nigeria to go in to keep them from having to expose themselves and the black problem that we have here in the United States, because that's always going to be a problem when you talk about morality. The guys may be over there fighting, but here in the United States, we're going to be talking about why are they there fighting, and why do you have them fighting a country that is black when you have these issues that are here in the United
And
States.
that's a comfortable position for us to say, sitting here on a couch safely in the United States.
Right.
And you're not out there facing an enemy who's trying to shoot you.
Right.
And that makes a big difference.
Right.
Major difference.
I remember the brother saying that no Vietnam has ever called me no Vietnamese has ever called me a nigger.
Right.
And so it's kind of the same situation where you have a people who are fighting for unity. They're not just this is the young brother who you saw speak, the 34-year-old. He's actually the president of Burkina Faso. And so one of the things this brother is saying is looking around saying, yeah, we have the resources, we have the gold mine, we have all the, why are we poor? So he's not just fighting for Burkina Faso. What these young brothers are talking about doing is combining their nations. They're fighting for a unity for all Africans and all people of Africa. And so the idea that you were going to go over that a person would go over there and kill or engage people who are trying to build a better world for all black people. That right there is something that is beyond.
Okay, we're gonna close. So I'm gonna ask the final question.
Okay.
When these idealist people take over power, will they be usurped?
I think this is a different generation. And so one of the reasons you have the leader in Nigeria is because he's looking over his shoulder. You have the older generation who are in power, these older presidents, they're looking over their shoulder at the young junior officers now. And that's why they cannot let a coup d'etat stand, because they want to maintain their power.
But when those my question is, when those young ones get in power as they get older, will they do the same thing?
No.
That you don't think they will?
No, because
you have that much confidence.
I have that much confidence because it's a new generation and they're looking around and they're asking the same questions. Why are we poor? The world currencies are built on gold that comes from Africa.
Right.
It comes from South Africa. It comes from West Africa. It comes from Ghana. So the world, like again, you have the cocoa capital of the world, right? Everybody talks about Swiss chocolates.
Yeah.
There's not a single cocoa field in Switzerland. It all comes from Africa. And so you have all the diamonds come from Africa. Like my sister was explaining about cobalt. 75% of the world's cobalt comes from the Democratic Republic of Congo. 66% of the world's lithium comes from the Democratic Republic of Congo. 65% of tantalum. So, I mean, I can go down the list of the resources. So 90% of the world's chromium, you can't make high strength steel without chromium. You can't make, so you go down the list of all the resources and they all come from Africa. The world's rare earth, a lot of rare earth mineral deposits are in Africa. So,
And the indigenous people are starved.
and they're looking around, and that was the reason for the coup d'etat, because 90% of us, we don't have power. All of France has power, and they're looking around saying, they're using our uranium and they all have power, but we don't have power. So you have this generation who's aware of this. And so they're saying, why are we starving? Why are we poor? And they're looking around at the rest of the world who's doing wonderful on African resources.
I think this is something we could have a regular show on this topic. Because Caleb has so much information here on this. So, but it's time for us to close out. So let me start over here. Your final comments, Mr. Chris.
You know, I was thinking what my final comment might be, and I'm thinking that out of all this we've talked about, especially with Niger, and some people that's Niger, we must learn that we cannot have power unless we have economic power. And so no matter whether it be here in the United States, whether it be in Niger, we must understand we have to have economic power.
There's so many parallels between what's happening in Nigeria right now and what's happening in the Black communities in the United States. So the diaspora is getting is closing up tightly around us, and I think we need to start understanding what's going on beyond our neighborhoods and look at what's going on in Africa, compare it against what's going on in the United States. And so I am proud to see that the millennials in Africa are trying to recover what's rightfully theirs.
Hey, Caleb, you close it out, sir.
So yeah, just to piggyback off what Chris and Sharon said, that economic power is about unity, and so you see the economic power. You see the power when four countries say, "You mess with one of us, you mess with all of us." Mm-hmm. You see the power. You see France panicking when they say you can't have uranium, and so imagine. And again, this is why we should have a vested interest. Imagine that's one resource. Imagine if they say you can't have cobalt. All of their plans for green energy, green economy, all of their plans for electric vehicles have gone down the drain. And so that's the power of Black folks and Black unity, being able to say, you know what, you kill another Black person, you're not going to get any cobalt. You're not going to get any uranium. You're not going to get whatever it is that you need for your global economy. And so that, again, that's the power of unity. That's what's happening right now in Africa, and they're coming together. And I pray that they're successful. I pray that it snowballs, and that this is an entirely we're entering into an entirely new era of Black unity and Black power globally.
I'll close by saying you're right that when this younger generation takes over, they will not be usurped. Power and absolute power is powerful, and people will do anything to hold on to that power. We're seeing that right in this country with Trump. So let's hope that the younger generation, when they take over, they won't do that, and they will continue to look out for most of the people in their country. So with that said, we're going to close this Hot Topics. Say thank you for viewing, and please, if you like what we said, let us know. If you don't like what we said, please let us know by going to where you can write comments. In the meantime, we'll see you next Friday at the Black Expo. In the meantime, this is Contemporary Black Voices telling our story, our way.